Okay, so Modern Warfare has been out for a month by this point, so I figured it's safe to review it now. I decided after Black Ops 4 that I'm never reviewing a COD game straight out the gate ever again. I gave Black Ops 4 a positive review when it came out, and I gave it a chance for a long time, but it sucks ass now. So when Modern Warfare came out, I really wanted to get a full-on taste of the game before I reviewed it. I reviewed BO4 like a couple days after it came out, which was honestly wrong of me to do. I'm trying not to make that mistake again, not just with Modern Warfare, not just with any COD game, but really basically with any game in general. So with that out of the way, let's review this game. I've been looking forward to talking about it because there's certainly a lot to talk about with it. So first and foremost, in order to understand how much weight this game holds, you need to understand the passion that surrounds it. In 2007, Infinity Ward took Call of Duty, a franchise which was exclusive to a World War II setting at that point, put a modern setting on it with a gritty, realistic tone. That was Call of Duty 4. Then, 2 years later in 2009, Modern Warfare 2 was released and took everything COD 4 did and not only did a lot of it better, but also amplified literally everything by 1000%. Modern Warfare 2 pulls out all the stops. Then in 2010, shortly after Modern Warfare 2's release, numerous lead developers at Infinity Ward were fired. Those devs would go on to form Respawn Entertainment and make the Titanfall series, which is really good. You should play them both. They also just released a really good single-player Star Wars game, which we haven't seen in a while, but anyways, that's besides the point. Modern Warfare 2 was a massive success. As of November 2009, the month it launched, it made $310 million in just the US, Canada, and UK alone. However, off the firing of the lead developers at Infinity Ward, they needed extra help making the third Modern Warfare game. They were in a tough spot because the original developers had a vision for how it would go, but then they got fired and new developers came in and it became a thing of its own. Sledgehammer Games came in to help, and this was their first time having any part in working on a Call of Duty game. And they co-developed Modern Warfare 3 with Infinity Ward, which would release in 2011. Modern Warfare 3 released, and it received mixed reviews at best, being criticized for feeling too much like Modern Warfare 2 and having a lack of originality. Modern Warfare 3 was the closer to the trilogy. I reviewed COD 4, I reviewed Modern Warfare 2, I'll review Modern Warfare 3 eventually. Several COD games would pass, and Black Ops 2 was widely considered the last really good one for a long time. Infinite Warfare, Ghosts, and Advanced Warfare were widely considered utter garbage to the fans.
2 X-rays down.
Copy.
Then, when Infinity Ward's COD game for 2019 was getting closer and closer to reveal, fans were expecting Modern Warfare 4, but then a rumor came out that it would just be called Modern Warfare. That rumor would turn out to be true, which is extremely stupid, but that's another argument for another time. Anyways, Call of Duty Modern Warfare was officially revealed on May 30th, 2019. From the reveal trailer, it looked like it was going to be a lot like COD 4, a gritty, realistic, modern set shooter. That was what fans had been begging for so long. They wanted a game like this. More information came out, then the game officially released. So, gameplay in Modern Warfare is actually the best gameplay in a COD game in such a long time. For so many years, COD just had so many elements of gameplay that didn't add up to each other. It couldn't decide what it wanted to be. Modern Warfare sticks to its gut, and I'm proud of it. It might sound like a hyperbole, but at least in terms of gameplay, I would say this maybe is the most realistic COD maybe ever. Time to kill feels realistic, the night vision brought back from COD 4 in ever so tactical fashion actually feels really good. You can open and close doors, reminding me a lot of Battlefield. It's funny, this game reminds me a lot of Battlefield 4 in terms of gameplay. Sniping is actually really good in the game and enjoyable, much unlike Black Ops 4, which was just deplorably bad with its sniping. You can mount your gun now and lean it against walls, but you could do that in Ghosts in the very first COD, but here it's different because, like, there's a different system to it. This game has a clear and obvious but huge influence from Rainbow Six Siege. The game still has a style of its own, however. The gunplay is really good. I love how the guns are, and especially customization. You have all these different attachments instead of just the standard red dot reflex ACOG, but I'll get more into that later. Modern Warfare's gameplay is really, really good. It's really good. I like it. Okay, time to address the elephant in the room. Multiplayer. There's a lot to talk about here. First off, I have to address the maps. Most people absolutely hate the maps in this game, and I do agree on some things. The biggest issue with the maps in Modern Warfare is that not only do they welcome camping and almost encourage it, or maybe they even do encourage it, but a lot of them feel like they're made for only one mode. The map Piccadilly, I hope I'm saying that right. The map Piccadilly is clearly a map made for search and destroy, and on any other mode it just feels weird. A few weeks back they did add a new 3-lane map called Shoot House, which is okay. I have the feeling that if more and more free maps that are really good come into this game and are more welcoming to the player, that could be great. Guns and multiplayer are really good too. My favorite right now is the Kilo 141, which I see as the younger brother to Modern Warfare 2's ACR, just the same gun with a different name. There are a lot of things in Modern Warfare multiplayer that haven't been seen in a long time or are just completely new. Like, let's start off with arguably the biggest thing. Ground War has been completely reinvented. Ground War was a mode in previous COD games, but in those, it was just a compilation of TDM, domination, and search, but just, it was 10v10. Now in this game, they took Battlefield Conquest and made it a large-scale 32v32 war zone. Now, I gotta tell you a lot about Ground War. It's an amazing mode that's really fun, but at the same time, it's a complete disaster. It's really fun, but it's intensely rage-worthy. There are points where I literally can't even spawn and last 2 seconds without being blown to shreds by a tank. They have a thing where if the enemy holds all 5 objectives, you have 45 seconds to change it. I mean, vehicles make up for a lot of the feces in this mode. They're insanely fun to control. We got our first taste of vehicles in COD in a long time last year with Blackout and Black Ops 4, and this year Infinity Ward made sure not to skip out on it. The maps for Ground War are fine. They're better fit than Ground War than most of the maps are for just standard multiplayer. Then you have the other new mode, Gunfight. It's a 2v2 elimination mode in small maps. And I'm just gonna say this right off the bat, and you might hate me for this. Fuck Gunfight. It's just not my type of mode, alright? Then, for regular modes, you have your typical quick play modes like TDM, Domination, Search and Destroy, Free-for-all, and some new ones called Cyber Attack and Headquarters. If I can go back to Ground War for one quick statement, I think this is what war should have been in World War II. That would have been pretty cool. You have these night vision modes, which, where you have night vision goggles on in tactical multiplayer, which I have to say, it really grew on me over time. I didn't like it very much in the beta, but then I played it some more on full release, and it felt a lot better. One last thing I want to discuss with multiplayer is the little animations you get when you start the match. It's a small detail, but, you know, there are different ones like busting out of a van or flying in from a chopper. Those are awesome, and I'd be totally fine with those making appearances in future COD games. Multiplayer in Modern Warfare overall is pretty good, but there's obvious room for improvement. Alright, so I'm gonna go through campaign spoilers here, so if you haven't yet played through the campaign but want to, or are currently playing through it, here's your warning, don't say I didn't warn you. Anyways, on with it. COD has a campaign now, again, and it's actually really good. It's really good. I pulled an all-nighter the night the game came out and played through the campaign in its entirety.
3 minutes.
And trust me, when Infinity Ward said they weren't going to hold back with this game's campaign, they really weren't lying. There's some real shit in this. It starts off with the characters who are essentially the main antagonists, the Wolf and the Butcher. They're on film, basically explaining the extent to which their motivation is, and the camera zooms out of the film to see soldiers getting ready inside a van. Then the van door opens, and out steps a man who raises a gun, people scream, the title drop. This was a spectacular opening. It builds up tension and makes you almost gasp, going, whoa, this game isn't gonna pull any punches. Then, the game cuts to 24 hours earlier, almost like Black Ops used to do a lot throughout its campaign, or like Pulp Fiction did throughout its movie. You meet your first out of 4 protagonists, Alex. He's CIA, and you're investigating a Russian compound. Let me just say now, the campaign is hard. I was playing on regular, and you die in a few hits. After the mission, you switch to after that mission, you switch to where the game opened. It's an attack in North London, and oh my God, it's Captain Price. My boy is back. Price throws a guy over a ledge who has a bomb strapped because they can't save him in time. It's hardcore. This whole campaign displays the horrors of war really well. This mission also introduces two of 4 of the other protagonists, Captain Price and Sergeant Kyle Garrick. Then, in the next mission, we switch to the Middle East side of the story. You meet the 4th protagonist, Farah, and her brother, Hadir, in the fictional country of Uzbekistan, or I hope I'm saying that. Uzbekistan. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it. And throughout the campaign, you switch between sides of the Middle Eastern front and the Russian front. Captain Price apparently knows Farah, and Alex has connections with Price, so you have an immediate connection there. Eventually, you capture the Wolf and take him to the US Embassy for protection. This leads to the most controversial mission in the campaign, at least in my opinion. The embassy mission is absolutely awesome, but it's insane. The Russians invade the embassy and brutally kill tons of people until the Wolf is theirs, including a child. Yet they went to the extreme with this one. While playing it, the mission reminded me a lot of the mission Of Their Own Accord from Modern Warfare 2. It was a brutal mission where you had to defend an important part of US soil from Russians. The worst, most annoying thing about this mission is having to escort this woman to safety through security cams and comms. It's really dumb and frustrating, and it took me like 30 minutes to get through it. So basically, every Modern Warfare game has something that would be considered controversial. COD 4 had the assassination of President Al-Falani. Modern Warfare 2 had no Russian, and arguably the most controversial level in video game history. Modern Warfare 3 had the less remembered London bomb attack, and now this is one of several things that Modern Warfare 2019 has. After the embassy mission, you cut back to the Middle East, where you're playing as Alex again, with Farah and Hadir, and you defend against waves and waves of enemies until Hadir betrays you and Farah. I guess they were trying to do a General Shepard type thing here, but it just didn't feel nearly as impactful. It felt to me he betrayed you just because. You then cut to a mission that jumps 20 years into the past, where when you play as Farah when she was just a kid. This is the single most intense part of the game out of everything. You awaken under rubble with your mother, who turns out to have died. You're pulled out by these construction people, and you're reunited with your father. You get back home to Hadir, but you're suddenly interrupted by a Russian soldier who brutally wipes the fucking floor with him right in front of you and Hadir. You then have to hide from him and kill him by continuously attacking him from behind with melee weapons you find on the ground, like a screwdriver, and eventually an AK-47 is enough to get him. You get through attempting to take supplies from the Russians using Hadir as a distraction, but you're captured by a character named General Barkov. That name will come up later in this video. Anyway, you cut back to Garrick and Price, and an old familiar name is brought up, Nikolai. He was a character in Modern Warfare 2 and 3, he just never had a huge role or anything. And is extremely likely to be mixed up with Nikolai Belinsky from Zombies. So you do a few search missions for Hadir, and there's this one cutscene I have to bring up, and it's between Price and Garrick. It's basically Price saying, like, we get dirty so the world stays clean, and it's amazing. I love it. Because it really displays how it really displays how war is. That is an amazing line, and this exchange of dialogue is the best in the whole game. Just go and watch it. Most of you will know what I'm talking about. You then cut to Farah going back 10 years, where she's a lot older than she was in the last flashback, and Barkov comes in. Remember how I said I was going to mention this guy again? This is that time. We should have gotten so much more of this guy. The way he presents himself reminds me a lot of a mix of Pagan Min from Far Cry 4 and Handsome Jack from Borderlands 2. A complete degenerate, but had room to be a great villain when he been given more exposure throughout the game. Eventually he dies with very little screen time, and I mean, no exposure.
The ambassador's still inside, sir. He's trapped.
A complete degenerate, again. So, to backtrack a little bit, due to Price's people not agreeing politically with Farah's people, they split. They eventually reunite to track down Hadir, and the wolf is killed. Now let me talk about the ending. There has never been something so awesome that made so little sense. Price meets Laswell, another main character who only appears through cinematics. They meet in some restaurant where Price gives her documents talking about assembling Task Force 141. He mentions soap, ghost, and gas. I mean, at first, my nostalgia boner was really tingly, but looking back, it really didn't make much sense. Overall, the campaign is amazing, but there's some gaping problems with it. I mean, I loved it, but, again, problems are problems. Spec Ops is back, people. After years of absence from the franchise, Spec Ops returns to Call of Duty once more for the first time since Modern Warfare 3. I can't go over all of it because I bought the Xbox One version, and survival mode is exclusive to the PS4 for a year because timed exclusivity is fucking stupid. I can, however, talk about multi-platform operations. There are different things with Spec Ops. It follows the events of the campaign after the main story is finished. I gotta say, if Modern Warfare is meant to be a tactical, teamwork-oriented type of game, Spec Ops is definitely the best part of the game at doing that. The amount of teamwork that goes into Spec Ops and playing Spec Ops, getting finished with it successfully, is actually a really nice change that hasn't been seen much in a Call of Duty game. Not only that, but successfully completing them gets you a lot of XP. There are 2 different types of Spec Ops modes, well, 3 if you count survival, exclusive to PS4, because timed exclusivity is fucking bullshit. You have Special Operations, which are story-based PvE Spec Ops modes, and then you have Classic Spec Ops, which is a lot more like Spec Ops was in Modern Warfare 2 and 3. It is a glitch fest at times. It's probably the glitchiest part of the game as far as I've experienced, but it's still playable. There are 6 operations currently, and then Classic Spec Ops, you have Safeguard, which is a thing, I guess. But overall, Spec Ops makes a neat little return to this game. So this game was marketed pre-release as an extremely visceral, realistic Call of Duty game to the likes of which we hadn't seen ever. It wasn't gonna be balls to the wall, Mission Impossible style action like Modern Warfare 2, and took a step back to being a more realistic shooter with a realistic tone like Call of Duty 4 or even World at War. It's a welcome change after so many years of nonsensical action. After the complete failure of Infinite Warfare, I guess Infinity Ward wanted to take a step back and look at themselves in the mirror, looking at making a better game, and this was the first step they took toward doing that, and it works. Again, the campaign focuses on real-world events, like issues within Russia and the Middle East, even though is a fictional country. Without much research or thought, you might think it's a real country because of the current real-life political problems going on in the Middle East today, in countries like Afghanistan and Syria. The point is, the game very realistically captures problems that go on in modern day in the Middle East. In more gameplay realism ways, explosives like claymores and C4 actually kill you if you blow them up while you're too close to them, which is surprisingly actually a first for a COD game, I think. I would have thought they would have done that years ago with COD 4 and BO1. For attachments, instead of just red dot, reflex, ACOG, you actually have branded sights and other forms of branded attachments now. Different types of them. You know... But hey, it's a new feature. Again, somehow a new feature, but hey, I welcome it. You know, my point is, this is likely the most realistic Call of Duty game maybe ever. That is despite some realistic inconsistencies, as I'll call them. The reason I say this is because of examples like the fact that in the campaign, you do die in just a few shots while playing on regular, but when you play the mission where you're Farah as a child, it takes several stabbings with a screwdriver. Multiple of them go to the neck and only slightly injure the Russian guy. It takes Hadir holding him down for you to take him out with an AK for you to finally get the job done, despite the fact that you jabbed him in the neck with a screwdriver multiple times. It's a realistic game, maybe even the most realistic one there is in this franchise, but the inconsistency is visible, and it's a thing for certain. So, in conclusion, Modern Warfare, in my opinion, is the first really good Call of Duty game to come out in so many years. I know I said that with Black Ops 4 when that came out, but I think even if non-cosmetic loot boxes purge this game, it would still be an enjoyable game because of its impressive gameplay, realistic, immersive, excellent campaign, challenging spec ops, and obviously you have Captain Price. It's a good way to end COD's really terrible 8th gen reputation. I think that if you like games like Infinite Warfare, World War II, Black Ops 3 and 4, I don't have a problem with it. You're well within your right to think what you think. Even though I don't really like any of those games, you have a right to your opinion. If you hate that game, if you hate this game, that's totally fine. FaZe Rain got a lot of hate for expressing his opinion on the beta. Fact of the matter is, it was his opinion. It doesn't matter if you agree with it or not. He has a right to it in the same way you do yours. The reason I say this is because yet again, for the 75th time, a Call of Duty game is polarizing. Because people are angry that while they hate a game, somebody else loves it, or vice versa. It's a video game. Chill. But anyways, my personal opinion, I'm enjoying this game a whole lot right now. The campaign, despite all the inconsistencies, both realistically and in terms of plot, is a very enjoyable experience. I did think while playing through the campaign that it would spark some controversy within the media, but surprisingly, a month has passed and none seems to have come from it. I'm actually really happy about it and accept the fact that games are games and can't precipitate real-world violence. Anyways, again, the game is really good. It's worth buying. It's a worthy Christmas gift, or go Black Friday shopping for it if you're mental like that. I've been Johnny Seizure, and I'll see you soon with more content.